Yes. 2, 1. Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. These guys do need introductions, even though in their own minds they don't. But John Langenkamp and Greg Erzman, who co-owner of Triple X Family Restaurants, the real, I want to say, well, not the brains behind the operation, but the ones off camera. Carrie has refused to go on camera today because they're
oh, here she comes. All right, that was a challenge. You needed the challenge.
Oh, she is coming on. So that's good. All right, Carrie,
keep her there.
Now, why are these two guys on? I don't know, but actually, one of the fun parts about being involved and working with the folks at Triple X and is one of the things that, at least for me, growing up here and going to Purdue games since I was a very young person, is this tradition thing and the fun of Purdue athletics and the celebration of all the great heroes that have come through here. And I think it's probably inspired all of us at one time or another. It inspired you in a different era to come from Ohio and become a big-time Purdue fan. Greg grew up here as well, but a big part of your restaurant is the Dwayne Purvises, the Drew Breeses. I mean, that makes it a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the greatest things that you can possibly imagine, people coming in and just getting so excited about seeing either a sandwich named after him, like Purdue Pete here,
yeah.
The Boilermaker Pete, where you just come in and just enjoy it and relive old times and create new ones. Get ready for new traditions.
And John Langenkamp is a former Purdue Pete, but I guess once a Purdue Pete, always a Purdue Pete. But how did you, outside of being the personification facially and everything else of being, you look like a Purdue Pete, but how did you get into this gig?
I guess I always grew up wanting to play football at Purdue, and I knew I wasn't fast enough or strong enough to play in the Big Ten, so being part of athletics was something I really wanted to do, and Pete was a great avenue for that, so I tried out my freshman year, and it worked out, and it was just a way for me to be a part of Purdue athletics and a way to kind of be a part of the team. So for me, that was the fun part, just kind of being involved with Purdue athletics.
Greg, for you guys, you have the Petes come in for their quasi reunion. They all behave, sort of, yes.
Absolutely, they're all.
They're going to be up tomorrow morning. They're here tomorrow morning at
7:30 tomorrow.
Which means you'll be in bed by 10 tonight.
That's absolutely right, Al.
All right,
yeah.
That's good. That's good. So I'm impressed by that. But what does that mean to have this big part of the tradition? These guys choose this place to do a big part of their celebration.
Well, when all this came about, John was talking to us, actually talking to Carrie first off, and they started kind of bantering back and forth, and we became friends with John. And as it just kind of developed, John had this idea for a long time about how to try to get the Petes together or something, and then through his association with Carrie, came up with an idea of maybe if we could get them to come in here. And then he convinced one of the Petes that said, well, what if I dedicate a hammer? And then it just went crazy from there. I mean, all of a sudden, John was just like, well, if we do that, then, and I'll let him tell the rest of that story. But
yeah. Jim Lenarski, he's actually in town this weekend. He was a Pete from 2010, and he graduated in 2012. He did it for about 3 years, and he lives in Dallas, Texas now. Great guy, and he wanted his hammer. We all get to keep our hammers, so when you come on as a new Pete, you get your hammer and you keep that for the duration of your being Purdue Pete. You get to take that along with you. And Jim wanted the hammer that's hanging up here to be in West Lafayette. He wanted to be on display so everybody could see it. And so last year we had a dedication before the last home game, and Jim dedicated the hammer and handed it off to Greg and Carrie. So now Purdue Pete is forever connected with Triple X, and that was kind of the idea, bringing two really cool traditions together. So.
One of the fun things, and like I said, in my job, is being able to go back and talk to the former Purdue athletes that have sandwiches named after them, from Drew or food items, and from David Bodiah, Drew Brees. Ryan Kerrigan is the one that kills me, because Ryan is always so quiet but so positive and so excited about the fact that his you have to bring 2 or 3 cows together to be able to make one of his sandwiches, I think, because it's absolutely huge. What's that been like for you, Greg? I mean, just to have these guys that you knew them when Drew Brees was just Drew Brees, that wanted to come in here and have a quiet meal, so to speak. that seems to be a common thread of the guys, the former student athletes that you've celebrated here.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic thing. They come in completely unassuming. They're a customer like everybody else, you know, and walk in and sit down and just enjoy their time here and enjoy the camaraderie and the friends and the people that they bring and the people that they meet here. And through that and their character and just being who they are, it just kind of naturally lends itself to have us ask the question, hey, would you like to have something on the menu? I mean, nothing's like pre-picked. There's not a big voting or there's not a secret formula or anything. It's just you go, what do you think? You know, would you like to do that? And some of them go, yeah. And other ones are like, oh, you know, I don't know. So far we've done pretty good.
Yeah, you're going to have some others now. I know that you and I have talked about Katie Douglas, maybe Stephanie White, some other folks that other folks from just football players, because it had been just football players until David Bodaya broke the barrier, I believe. There.
That's right.
And wow, Pete is by definition a football type person. So, I don't need any grief in the peanut gallery. No, I'm just saying. No, so I mean, what's the future of this? Where does this go from here?
Well, we have looked at that. You know, we like to support all areas of the sports and so forth. And like you said, you know, Budaya broke the mold. He got us away from the football a little bit as far as being just the running string. But we do want to include, and we've talked. You know, you and I have talked about that along with Carrie about bringing Katie Douglas and some other people, athletes and stuff, into this. Even so much to the point to where we've talked about. We can't have a menu big enough to put everybody on it, so maybe we do something like a rotation, where we have some that are going to be fixed, and then we'll have one that's like a rotating annual or something where you get somebody new in, and then you kind of on a month-to-month basis maybe roll through the additional ones, and they're always going to all be available if you ask for them. But I mean, as far as actually have them on the menu full-time, that it might be a rotation basis where you kind of have a chance to come in and experience all the different ones and help us to honor the different people that are associated with Purdue and what they do for the university, and it's all in fun anyway. So I mean, that's what our goal is.
Boilermaker Pete, what's your favorite sandwich here, though? I mean, what do you Dwayne Purvis is?
You know, I have a good story about the Dwayne Purvis. I think you may have heard this before, but it was my senior year, and my roommate and I were coming back from Bloomington, and we were in contention for the Big Ten championship that year, and we lost that game, and we were coming back, and I was really upset about it, and we came back and wanted to go to XXX and get a sandwich, and I had never tried the burger, but I thought, you know what, I'm in a pretty bad mood right now. If this burger is as bad as maybe what I thought it was going to be, I'm not going to be except I already am. So I tried it and I loved it, and so since then, the Dwayne Purvis has been my go-to at XXX.
We're trying to get Stacy to try that before she takes off today, because it's really good, and you would not think peanut butter would work, but it does.
No, it goes together really well.
Absolutely.
It does.
All right, tomorrow's game, weather may be a little bit of a factor, but what's the worst weather that you ever had to do Pete in, where it was the absolute most miserable?
Oh, you know what? It really wasn't the cold. It was October 6th, 2007. The Ohio State game. It was a night game.
Yeah.
I think it was 8 o'clock start, and it was a hot, muggy day.
Yes.
And that was probably the most miserable in terms of weather conditions, because I remember I did the first quarter for that game, and it just was soaked from head to toe because it was so muggy out. But other than that, it's not too bad. If it's cold, you have the costume on, which keeps you pretty warm, and it's not too bad. Like in September, you do a quarter or so, you sweat a little bit. But I know that one night in October was probably the worst. That was pretty hot.
Now, in terms of a big, and it's been a while, and maybe too long in terms of Purdue football, but a monumental victory where fans are literally tearing down the goalpost or dancing in the streets. You'd always like those kind of events, but has the party ever made it to, I assume when that's happened, and we've been around when it has in the days of Drew Brees, does it make it here soon, right after the game, or does it go on all night?
It starts right after the game. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they start celebrating immediately, well, before they leave the stadium, they start. And it just marches all the way down, and it continues inside. You know, once everybody gets seated, I mean, there'll be people standing out in the parking lot waiting for an hour up to, to get in to be able to join in, but they're celebrating outside as well. So that party starts and stays and just keeps going here. I mean, it's just the cheering and the discussion and the camaraderie. It's awesome.
One of my, I was going to say, one of my favorite stories is Nick Hardwick, and the story of how not only his food item came to be, but his story of just having to come here as a walk-on. He never played high school football. I think maybe played as a freshman, but you got to know him a little bit. And he's very almost emotional when he talks about the relationship not only with Purdue athletics but his experience here.
Yeah, Nick he's just like what I was telling about earlier about how people kind of become part of the XXX menu or whatever. Nick was just a customer, came in, as a matter of fact, stayed right over here all the time, and his dad was working at Eli Lilly also. Yeah. So occasionally we'd have both of them in, and Nick just came in. This was kind of like his dessert. After the training table and the workout, this was kind of his dessert breakfast. So he would just sit here and eat, and just was extremely interesting, very soft-spoken, very humble, just proud to be a part of it. Never took it to the gee look at me level or anything like that, just a straightforward guy, but just had a ball and would come in and eat. And I remember when he came back after his senior year, and he was sitting where Purdue Pete's sitting right now, and we, Carrie and I discussed it, and we said, well, we'll go ask him. So I went over and I said, well, we'd like to do a breakfast for you on the menu. I said, what do you like? And he goes, well, I like the breakfast special, which is what he was eating. This is our plain, regular XXX breakfast special. And I said, well, any improvements? And he goes, well, you ought to have a little more bacon. So I wrote down a little more bacon. And he said, oh, you might throw gravy on the potatoes. So we put a little gravy on the potatoes. I said, that's it. He goes, that's really all I want. I'm just like, okay, good. Consider it done. So that was so simple. We just put that together for him, and he's just been just like, wow, that's really great. So we presented him with I think we took a menu and put it on a placard and presented that to him as like the very first menu off the print went to him. And so then he still got it. So cool. I can't wait for him to come back. I haven't seen him for a while.
I think he's going to be spending some of his off-season in Indianapolis as well, so my guess is he will be here before long. All right, guys, we'll talk quickly about we know you're predicting Purdue wins tomorrow. There's no question about that, I'm sure from your standpoint. But what have you seen that you've liked about this year's football team? Obviously, a couple more wins than last year, but you're and Greg's in a place. You're both in a place where you hear people talk about what's going on. What are you seeing?
I think the biggest thing this year is just seeing the level of improvement over the last couple of years. Just seeing those guys competing in every game. I know last year they were fighting hard. This year they're just being competitive. They went toe-to-toe with the Big Ten champs, the Rose Bowl champs in Michigan State. Played a really, really great game. So I think it's just been fun to see those guys competing every week, and they're playing hard, and it's a team you can really feel good rooting for. So.
Greg, you hear guys in here talking from your older customers to your younger ones. They're now at least they're talking about Purdue football now. I think it's becoming relevant.
Absolutely, and I think to just continue on what John was saying, a lot of times when you bring in a new coach, there's always changes to the system and the way it goes. You can't get cohesiveness in the first year, and I think what you're seeing in this year is where the team is playing together. I think what John was talking about, and watching all those plans that Coach Hazel has put together start to come to fruition and moving the team forward and moving it in a positive direction. And I mean, we hear about that all the time in here, where people are talking about, okay, let's go. They're moving. You can see it, and you can physically see it, and you can feel it. I mean, I think that's probably just as important as what other people are talking about. As you come into the restaurant, either before or after the game, the feeling is different. Yeah. It's a more positive feel. It's a stronger feel. It's one of kind of completing everything out that had been planned in advance. So that's a great thing to see.
All that, if you're a Purdue fan, is step in the right direction. And I think that's going to tell the tale of how fast and how much this program improves over the next few years. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And Greg didn't really have a choice; he works here. So I mean, we're glad to have him here. We want to thank our guest, President Mitch Daniels, as well. That was a treat to have him on. It was also a treat to have Stacy Clarity and Brian Newbert on. They always do a great job of providing their analysis with respect to Purdue football and Purdue basketball. Make sure you check out our site, goldandblack.com. We even have one of our advertisers, and Trent Johnson needs no I don't think he's still back there. Yeah, he's still back there, Edie. But we appreciate Trent and the folks at Trent Johnson and the folks at State Farm. And of course, John Bastian. We probably all could have asked John here too. He would have shown up as well. But John Bastian, Bastian Reynolds, and of course Hilton Garden Inn for helping us out as a sponsor as well. So we will look forward to joining you. We're not sure whether we're going to be on either December 5th or December 12th. We'll keep you posted on that for our December show. No show next week because of the Friday holiday, but we'll have plenty on goldenblack.com as the Boilermakers get ready for Indiana next week. But more importantly, they get ready for Northwestern. More importantly, today, I should say. More importantly, that they play Northwestern tomorrow. So we'll look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks. We'll keep posting on our schedule. And thanks again to the folks also at WLFI, Keith and Gordon, for your hard work behind the scenes, and Kim and Allie. Though I don't know if Allie was with us today, but we appreciate all your help throughout the day today as well. So we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks on Gold and Black Live.